Oh, America! Are you serious? It is showtime, baby! Here we go! Ram, jam, slam, bam! It's awesome, baby!
360 Mindset, sharing skills and growth wrapped by stories from elite performers and your favorite sports players. So take your first step. Speak your first word with a foundation of positive thought that comes from 360 Mindset and your host, Coach Whiteman. Whoa, Whiteman. Let's get started. No excuses and no regrets.
Absolutely. It's a Friday, 11 o'clock here in wonderful Colorado. We've got a great show today for you. Got a guest coming in at 11:30, and it's going to talk to us a little bit about goal setting and maybe a little bit about breathing. But if not, we'll remind her. It's Carrie Williams. She has a new book out called Eyes on the Prize, a kick-ass guide to setting and achieving great goals. Great goals. Everybody take a look at that. That's awesome. We'll put that up there in just a sec. We're also going to talk about our theme today. It's a great theme. It's about being creative and finding power in your own creativity. That is what is hugely important for us to take a look at these days. I'm excited about that and making sure that that we're. I'm sorry, I got distracted just for a moment. Taking a look at the board here this morning and all the exciting things that are going on in our world. I have to make a shout out to the people in Las Vegas, the families in Vegas, and the tragedies that happened out there. The heartache that's all around our country and the world related to the use and misuse of weapons. It's important for us to take a focus on that. Then jumping from there to still working on the recovery from the hurricanes, Irma, and just that recovery process. It takes a lot of energy out of us. And gosh, I've got my favorite song, "Breathe," and it's maybe a collective universal breath across our nation, trying to find a focus in what we do here and making sure that we've got a good foot forward every day. A positive foot forward is important to us all. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about the mindset for today. That's our first segment. We've got the creativity on our minds and the power of creativity, whether it's at the corporate level with executives or you're looking at your creativity on the field. Creativity comes into play when you need to adjust and adapt to those people and things that might change the way you continue to deliver your performance. Some of the examples in the sporting world I mentioned this week on Extra Point, were quarterbacks. Coaches tell them to, create something with your feet. Now, if you didn't understand what they really meant by that, you kind of go, what? Create something with my feet? What are you talking about? Well, it's basically avoid the blitz, perhaps, or read your secondary reads and move to a place where you can get a better look at the downfield routes or the secondary routes of your receivers. Create something with your feet. On the other side of things, the receiver on the other end of that, they're going to be looking at creating something with their route. They ran the correct route. It didn't quite fit in the timing of what was happening with the defense. So they have to be able to be creative and adjust and adapt to what's in front of them. And they have to use the power of their mind to create that. Now, here's the thing. Creativity in its application starts before you even get to the contest, before you even start your day at work. Creativity happens in your preparation, or the capability of being creative and drawing on that power of creativity. It happens in your preparation and the practice that you put through in trying to be your best. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to your preparation and the plans you use to create that agenda for your preparation and practice. And then as you practice it more and more, as many of us have said over the years, the 10,000 hours rule. Now, I think some people can get to a habit of behavior in less than 10,000 hours. But for those who are committed to their game, they put in that time. People as notable as Peyton Manning, Michael Jordan, Brett Favre, Derek Jeter in baseball. There are many, many performers across the country. I'm sure if you asked Harrison Ford, I saw the other night on television promoting a movie that he's in, a remake of an old movie that he was in talking about preparation, and because they asked him the question, was it easy? Kind of going back to the same genre. He said, no, I learned new things. I had to prepare because technology, computer-generated graphics is a whole new area for the application of generating this film. Where back in the day, when he first produced that film, I should say acted in that film, and I'll remember the film here in a minute. I think it's out already. It's been released. But he said he had to practice. He had to learn all of those new techniques, and he gained quite a bit of understanding and knowledge when he did that. So preparation to release your creativity is essential. You've got to prepare. You've got to practice. So it's important for us to find agendas of preparation that fit our desires, our personality. And so what I'm talking about now is getting to the part of your, let me just think about this just a second as I'm punching up on my computer a couple of things. I'm really interested in finding the name of that that movie that Harrison Ford was in would be extremely helpful to me right now. So, but hey, if you have the answers to that, give me a joust on my Twitter account. Got my phone here, and let me share with me what the new movie that Harrison Ford is in. Let me know what that is. And there, I got a Twitter. No, we got the people talking about the Packers. Hold on a minute. Maybe I'll get it. Aha! Always from the great helpers. Blade Runner. Thank you, Diane. Really appreciate it. Blade Runner. Back in the day, Blade Runner was more than likely was still on film, not digital media and digital production. And now with computer-generated graphics, Blade Runner is phenomenal, is what I've heard. So the mindset here for creativity is being able to get yourself in a place where you can quickly go to your thoughts about your preparation to adapt and adjust to whatever's coming at you, and sometimes at quite a speed than we normally would expect it to be approaching us. Here's an example of that. The playoffs for Major League Baseball are happening. Regretfully, the Rockies did not make it past the Diamondbacks. I thought it was going to be a slugfest in the first inning, and the Rockies were going to come back and adapt and adjust and really lay it on. It didn't seem to come to them until later on in the game. But that's my example. When you're a hitter at the plate and you're looking at the pitches coming in, especially in those competitive situations that playoffs create, you're going to have to adapt and adjust to a pitcher who's probably zoning in. And for the Diamondbacks, their pitcher zoned in. He brought it together very quickly and was delivering strikes, but strikes in places that were difficult to hit. So for you as a hitter, you had to do things like, I know for me, when I was coaching baseball, I would say to my hitters, be a small target. Get up there and be a small target, which meant crowd the play a little bit, get in a stance where it's going to be tough for him to hit those spots, and you're going to be intimidating to them. Well, on the pitcher side of things, his creativity is zoning into that target box, not concerned about the hitter crowding. You don't see the hitter. All you see is the target for your strike zone, and processing what you know to be the proper arm angle, arm speed, release at the point of release, and at a place where it's going to be the right release point to get the pitch into that spot. And the Diamondbacks pitcher was on his game and making it difficult for the Rockies hitters to hit the ball. Now that being said, both teams, there's a slowdown by the Diamondbacks, and the Rockies started to come back. Then we switched to other areas of creativity. I noticed there was a number of double plays made, shortstops deep into behind almost third base to backhand a ball and then be creative in their field release movement and jumping and throwing. And it's amazing to me the amount of flexibility those players have and the ability to put some power behind those throws to make it to third base. But that's creativity. And it doesn't happen naturally, at least not to a lot of people. It's a matter of practice. You actually practice those moves. You practice that backhand fielding and then getting it in your hand and releasing quickly. I tell you what, when I saw there was a Diamondback player that he made a throw to first base. It got there in a hop and regretfully put out the Rockies player, but he was flailing all over the place to get enough leverage in his throw to get it over to first base. It's interesting where creativity shows itself, and I don't think as coaches, players, business people in the business world, we really recognize where creativity and the power of creativity rises up. It's an extraordinary thing to look for. I love doing it. That's what I do. I look for those places where creativity and the power of creativity really rise up. Now, typically, creativity pops up in environments. So when you're setting up a workspace, a dugout, a bench, a locker room, to have a reinforcement of creative power, you want to be aware of who the people that are going to be in that space, so that you can then add symbols, pictures, maybe even furniture for that matter. There's a big science called ergonomics that has a lot of impact on releasing the power of creativity with individuals, and just how easy and manageable is it to maneuver through an office space. For some of us, we might be in an office space where there's just this, north, south, east, west alleys through all the different cubicles, and that doesn't seem too creative. But perhaps the creative part is how you decorate them, label them, colorize them. I know for too often the color scheme was beige at best, gray, and maybe a little bit of taupe, but definitely not anything too extravagant as far as colors to bring out creativity in those people that require color to charge and release their creative power. So the environment is a big part of setting up the mindset so that the mind is ready and active to join in and release their creativity. So as I set that mindset part up for our show today on creativity power, I want to point out we've got some creative power here. Right behind me, you see a monitor of some top football plays in the college football and the NFL. thanks to KUHSdenver.com and Henry, we are doing some wonderful things to really make this space even more at home than it already is. So take note of that, viewers, and those who are just listening know that we're doing some great things here at KUHS to try to make what is already great even better, and being creative in the process to release all those types of things. In addition to that, I want to mention that this is a notable month. We should recognize our neighbors and friends that have Hispanic culture in their background and have a Hispanic heritage. I'm not going to say this right, but it's the Hispanic month, the Hispanic Recognition Month. Henry, if you hear me there, give me a thumbs up on that. Is it Hispanic Recognition Month for this month? I want to make sure we recognize that, as well as recognizing the fact that there's a lot of families of all different types of backgrounds that are being challenged this month and perhaps for several months going into the future. And what we're going to do is make sure that we're constantly making ourselves aware of that and bring forth assistance and support. I think if you took any time at all to watch or listen to reports from Vegas, you heard young people, old people, married people, single people, people of Native Americans, Hispanic people, Black Americans, white Americans, every kind of hue you can think of at a country music concert, now coming to the assistance and help of people, touching stories about pushing creative power to its max in the face of adversity. It's tough to maintain your mindset in any perspective, let alone creativity, to support and help those in need, and in this case, need that could be detrimental, terminal to them. But here's an example of creativity. Here's a Marine, an ex-Marine at the concert with friends. He hears something he hasn't heard in a while. He was a Special Forces guy. He hears this sound coming. Initially, he's just like everybody else. What he thinks the sound is, fireworks or a car backfiring, whatever the case may be. And then all of a sudden, it came into perspective for him because of the pattern of the sound. And he knew that it was gunfire. And then he started seeing around him that people were being wounded or killed. And he quickly jumped to respond to these people and then realized he needs to get these people out of there. So he runs out of the place while the gunfire is going and becomes creative. He finds a truck and is going to take this truck. And thankfully, he pulls down a visor perhaps, or he looks in a place where he thinks there might be keys, finds keys, gets the truck, and proceeds to now be a transport of people to the hospital. That's drawing upon your creative power in challenging times. So that ends our first little pause for this morning at about 18 after the hour of 11. We're going to come up into our next segment, which is skills, and talk a little bit about what skills does it take to build on my creative power and make it larger than I currently have in my assets of things to share with others. I am, I'm looking at my questions awesome. All right, so, sorry, I had a little bit of a pause. It's like squirrel, right up there. Everybody can relate to that, right? I had a little bit of a distraction. And you know what? For me, my distractions become my most creative moments. My family doesn't think so because I have this blank stare on my face. And that happens to me. It happened to me as a coach as well. I remember times when I was sitting on my large bucket of baseballs, at the end of the dugout fence in the opening, giving signals to my catcher for our defensive part of the inning. And I'd be just kind of spaced out for some reason before the first hitter was up there. And I had one catcher on American Legion ball. That was usually summertime league. He literally picked up a piece of dirt and threw it at me so he could get my attention. I respected him for that because he didn't yell out at me to get my attention. But at any rate, we're in the skills section. So what are the skills? To maintain your focus. I should be a good expert at that, right? To practice it on myself. Maintain your focus. One of the things for all of the skill sets we talk about that needs to happen, and we've prefaced a little bit here with creative power, is prepare. Well, preparation is one thing that has to be helped by setting goals and prioritizing your preparation. Too often I have individuals in both business and athletics that they think just because they go through the exercise of making a plan that it's one that fits. It's one that's going to release, in this case, our creative power. Well, that's not the case. You've got to put some thought into it and prioritize that agenda and that schedule. Make sure it fits the roles and goals that you have for yourself. So, for example, we're talking about athletes, professional athletes, amateur athletes, or we're talking about business people, executive business people, management, supervisors, whatever level you're at. You need to have an understanding of who are you? What am I doing every day? What do I choose to do every day? Before you could even come close to understanding and being confident about releasing your creative power. So here, let me give you an example. I have two primary roles for me. I got more than that, but I'm just going to give you two examples. I am a father and a husband. All right. Now, those two things in a weekly basis, I'm going to look at those two roles and I'm going to make a decision as to which of those do I need to plan something for the week. Now, I may have one week I plan both of them. I plan something for being a father and I plan something for being a husband. But there may be a situation where I don't have anything specific to be planned for as a father. My children are adults. I hope that they don't call me a lot, or I hope I don't have too many very routine plans with them. Now, with being a husband, I have routine plans that I need to make. Sometimes I get it on target and sometimes I don't. But I need to make a plan. And I am not always that on task with that, because as much as I know it's the right thing to do, I fight the planning part because I think, well, I know that. I'll get that done. But it's important to say it, see it, write it. Say it, see it, write it. So there's a skill for you. That's also part of the mental condition. We'll talk about that as we get into talking with Carrie Williams today about her book. But when you're setting up your planning process, you need to make sure that you have prioritized that list according to your roles. So, for example, I am also a talk show host. Right here. Here I am. And I'm a husband. So if I'm prioritizing things, and first of all, I'm looking at all of them, I'll know when there may be potential conflicts. Now, here's where I get stuck a lot. I want to do everything with everybody all the time. That's just not physically possible. As higher desires I have for that, I can't do it. Like leaders on a team, they want to make sure that they know everybody's role as much as they can. And my difficulty with my clients that get into that mindset and want to exercise their skills into every single area. Typically, that's a quarterback or a pitcher or a catcher in baseball. If it's an individual sport like winter sports where you're a skier, snowboarder, an athlete, an Olympic wrestler, it's one person. You're doing your thing. You're controlling just you. Well, when it's a team organizational issue, you got to be careful because your priorities need to be focused on you. All about making you better before you can extend yourself to anybody else. So you can't release creative power unless you've done the planning to then start your preparation and then practice that prep as often as possible so that it becomes a habit. So that when you're pushed and challenged by people and things, your creative power is quickly released to help yourself and then those around you in the team setting. So what are some skills you can do? Well, you've got some on the plate that we've talked about a lot, the creative power. Get your mind released. Time to focus. Take up the app, Time to Focus. It's an iTunes app. Sign up for it. We're working on getting the Android version of our app together. I look forward to that. And use that to get your brain ready to go. And in doing so, you're going to be more adept, quicker at processing the brain to have the body take action and release your creative power. Many times creative power is illustrated initially through what you say. You say something to someone or you inflect it in a certain area. One of the greatest creative vocal people that I've had an honor to meet and work with and talk to is Peyton Manning. How many people have seen him or heard him with his cadence? When he calls out the cadence in a game, he gets the defensive line to jump. That's creativity. That's timing. That's knowing when he sees something in front of him, that because he's practiced it enough, he's prepared it, knowing what he wants to do with his voice to inflect, have a certain rhythm and timing of it with that inflection, gets people to jump. I don't know if you've noticed lately with pitchers on the pitching mound, there's a lot of extra motion going on, and I kind of wonder what that does for umpires' judgment of what is a balk. And I don't know if it's changed at all, but their feet movement and arms going and guys posturing and looking in and doing all kinds of crazy things. Well, that's creativity. That's trying to get the attention of the hitter onto the pitcher and not where the ball is at to deceive them. So you've got pitchers that will do things with hide the ball as long as they can with their body twists. Well, now you've got them posturing in front of the hitter before they even start the motion to get them to perhaps just be distracted. In basketball, at almost any level, there's all the head fakes. The age of having handles and being able to move the ball as a dribbler is way beyond just a simple ball fake. But it's that creativity in your movement. Steph Curry is one example that you see a lot. And there's many point guards in the NBA. Well, not just point guards. You've got guys with handles that are power forwards, for crying out loud. That Kevin Durant, he's got some pretty good handles for a man his size. It's all about creativity. And then they become so creative, they get a move named after themselves. I think Durant's got one, but I'm not sure what the name of it is. So the skills you want to use in the moving your creative powers forward are things that activate your brain and release that preparation and release those actions that you take through your practice, and now you can let them go. The other part of skill building that you want to look at is situational. I call it role play. So you create a situation and you role play that in practice. For example, if you know that a defense is going to position a certain way, if they're going to identify a blitz, or they're going to position a certain way to try to get you into a double team on the basketball court, or in baseball, there's the huge shift of teams to hitters. If I was a hitter at the plate and I saw that shift, and let's say I'm a left-handed hitter and they shift all the way to the right, I would say to myself, I've practiced this situation where they're going to serve me an outer third pitch. And typically I've had difficulty with that. I tend to get around on it really fast and pull it. Well, now it's a time to patience, wait, and push that ball to left field as a left-handed hitter. Same thing with a right-handed hitter, just go in the different field. That's creativity. That's seeing the situation, have prepared it, you've role-played, and you've done the things you need to do to get yourself in a position to be able to punch that ball into the opposite field and take the shift out of play. Now they got to play you legit, and you've used your creative power to make an adjustment to what they have approached you with. All right, we're getting close to the 30-minute time frame. We're going to be giving Carrie Williams a call and make sure that we go to this great next half. I'm going to put this up in front of everybody. This is the book that we have here from Carrie Williams. It's a wonderful book, Eyes on the Prize, a kick-ass guide to setting and achieving goals worth getting. I like that title. It fits where I'm at. Eyes on the Prize. I love it. Carrie Williams. She's going to be with us in just a few seconds. I'm going to go to the little board here and dial her in. All right, here we go. Phone call away.
Hi, this is Carrie.
Hi, Carrie. This is Lowell Whiteman. Good morning. You're on KUHSdenver.com and on my show. How are you this morning?
I am excellent. How are you this morning?
I can't be better. The sun is shining in Colorado finally.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, we've had some southwest northern, the northwest kind of weather in Seattle where my kids are. That's not good. I wanted the sunshine back.
Well, the rainbow helps things grow up.
Yeah. Oh, you're bringing the positive into a great point here. That's awesome. Yes, ma'am. We want to make sure that we're always focused on the positive. Yes, I shouldn't grouse too much because we have over 300 days of sunshine in Colorado, just like where you're at in California. So, Carrie, share with my listeners and viewers, and I regret that you're not in the studio. I'd love to have you sit next to me, but we're both visual and audio, and so share with my listeners and viewers why does this book mean so much to you?
So, I wrote this book because I really believe in two statements. I believe that one, everyone deserves to feel fulfilled and follow their passion. And that two, everyone has the potential to make their dreams their reality. These are not commonly held theories, but these are my beliefs. And sometimes we just need a guide to help us create the plan and help us execute the plan. And so that's why I wrote Eyes on the Prize. It's for people who want to achieve more in life and want to work with a coach, but they don't necessarily have the opportunity or the investment to make that happen at the moment. So this book is like having your own personal pocket coach to help you along on your journey towards success.
Awesome. And we're going to talk about the great goals piece of the book. And by the way, I love the read. It was a very good read. I want to emphasize what you just said to my audience, that this is by no means, it's not a long book, but it's not a short read, meaning you're going to think about things that Carrie has placed in the book for you to contemplate. So one of those things I'll ask you about regarding contemplating is when you're setting goals and you're trying to put them in place that they actually move. You take action and you can see them kind of mature and get going. Why is it important to use a kind of a language that makes your goals attainable and not so kind of fuzzy and ambiguous?
So what I think you're asking is, why is it really important to make your goals as exact as possible?
Yep.
Here's why. If we're running a race, we need to know where the finish line is, right? We have to know when we cross so we can celebrate and give ourselves a pat on the back, but also so we can pace ourselves and so we can train appropriately. It is the same with a goal. We need to know what the goal is, what's going to change when we accomplish it, and we need to know exactly once we've achieved it so we can pace ourselves and plan accordingly. So there's a big difference between running a 5K and running a marathon, right? And if you set a goal that is the equivalent of a marathon, but pace yourself for a 5K, you're going to be hurting.
So go ahead, Carrie. I'm sorry.
I encourage people when they're setting their goals to be exactly possible and to answer the 5 W's. The who, which that's a trick question because the who in your goal should always be you. The what, which is what you want to accomplish. The when you want to accomplish it by, and this is because it gives you some urgency. There's a difference between, again, using a running analogy. There's a difference between saying I'll run a marathon versus I will run the marathon in October of 2018, right? Because if I say I'll run a marathon, what are the odds that I'm going to start training right now? Not very high because there's no urgency. But if I actually set a timeline for myself, it provides that momentum.
So then,
the who, the what, the when, the where, if that's possible, and then it doesn't have to be included in your goal, but you have to know the why. Why do you want it? We will not work towards a goal unless it's something that we want. That's why we have so much trouble when the bosses give us goals, or the doctors give us goals, or when our spouse gives us a goal, and we're like, oh, I have to do this now. But we're just not excited.
Well, and what you're also telling me is that it doesn't make a lot. It's not very well motivated if it's coming from someone else. So
Wow.
my follow-up question to you: that how relevant in what you've seen and the people you've worked with, that self-awareness and self-efficacy plays in not only the part of setting goals, but actually activating them and actualizing them.
So that's an excellent question. I would say that when you are looking at setting a goal, the very first and most important step in the change is self-awareness. That ability to see where you are versus where you want to be, and to see it clearly and without fear or bias, is really valuable. Because so often we look in that metaphorical mirror and we see what we want to see or what we hope to see, we put a positive spin on it, or we see what we fear others will see about it, and we put a negative spin on it, as opposed to viewing what's really there. You can't change a situation unless you view it honestly. So self-awareness is that first step. Now, efficacy, which is the equivalent of self-confidence, is that belief that you can get to where you want to be. That's really essential for the journey portion of reaching your goal. Because when you hit a challenge or a hard path, it's that confidence that's going to help you get through. But I would like to say this: you do not have to have that belief to start your goal setting process. You don't panic. All you need to start the journey is the hope that you can make it happen, and the belief that it is possible to achieve it. You don't have to 100% know that you can achieve it yet, because you can grow in that belief along the way.
Well, I think we both would agree, Carrie, that there's varying degrees of people's acceptance of surrounding themselves with people. Whether those people that they surround themselves with or bump into can help them with their goal setting and their achievements or not. But where do you sit with, selecting the right people, the people that help you to be your best, to help you reinforce your goals? And is there an optimal number? Are there signals about, hey, if I surround myself with these people, what are some of the signals that pop up that I should be aware of that they're draining me, they're distracting me from being great?
That's an excellent question. And that reminds me of the old adage that you are a combination of the 7 people that you spend the most time with. Have you heard that?
Yes, I have. Yes, it's kind of where I'm coming from.
If you think that to be true, if you think that to be true, you surround yourself with people who are trying to stop you, or who are being negative about what you're trying to accomplish, or who aren't supporting you. That means that essentially you're doing that to yourself as well. So I'm a firm believer that we should network and live up. Your friends should be the people you aspire to be. Right? I always believe that if you're the smartest person in the room or the most ambitious person in the room, you're in the wrong room, because that really won't challenge you.
Well, and you make a good point about challenges. Challenges are important to grow and build. In the athletic world that I work in quite a bit, if we don't challenge ourselves with something beyond where we're currently at, it's hard to get better and sustain.
Right. And here's the thing to remember about a challenge. It does not have to be insanely huge to be effective. You can do a small challenge, just one step outside your comfort zone, and then tomorrow take another step outside your comfort zone. Because we get better, as you know, in the athletic world, we get better with consistent practice.
Yep. Well, and Arthea, you reminded me.
If you consistently practice staying comfortable, then that's where you're going to stay.
Yeah, exactly. And what comfortable sense to me is mediocrity, and that's not acceptable to high performance of anything, whether it's athletics or business or just life. But you reminded me when you mentioned the mediocrity, that many times the word sustainability is used in our business vernacular, and to me that always just kind of caused me to think about, well, if we're sustaining it, we're just maintaining where we're at. Now it may be at a high level, but where's the potential you have? Do you have latent potential even though you're an elite performer? So the challenges are, as you say, they can be big or small challenges. In fact, sometimes the smaller they are, the more powerful they are in changing behavior and your habits. One of the things I want to take you to now is really honing in on the smart versus great aspect of your book, because as you may know, there's that phrase out there: the SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So you use the word great for that as well. I like that difference and that change. Talk to me a little bit about the differences between smart versus great.
Sure. So my philosophy is like that for smart if you can be great. Smart goals were created in the 80s, and it was really the cutting edge of goal setting for decades. And smart goals are really great if you are setting project management style goals. But when you're trying to set really genuine, self-motivated goals that will change your life, smart goals are a little bit short. So the difference between smart and great goals. In great goals, the G stands for genuine. This is really important in the modern day, making sure that your goal is self-motivated and genuine. Because what we have found is if people don't want it, they won't work for it. And so there's a shift that has to happen between I should reach this goal or I have to reach this goal to I really want this goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the T is also pretty different as well. The T in great stands for totalitarian. Most people think I am encouraging them to become goal nazis, and that's not what I mean. What I mean by totalitarian is your goal has to be in your control.
Yeah.
So I work quite a bit with performers, and when athletes walk in my door, the first thing they say is, I want to book the job, or I want to book the TV show, or the movie, or I want to win the Oscar. The problem with those goals are they can't control them. Because somebody else thinks that you get that job. Somebody else votes to tell you if you win that Oscar. So if you set that as your goal, you can do everything right. You can put all your effort and energy into it and be brilliant and still not attain that goal. And when that happens, the next time you set a goal, you're less likely to work as hard and as efficiently towards it. Because deep in the back of your mind, you go, well, what's the point? I want to do anyway.
Yeah, and it also makes it difficult to set up any kind of process to attain what you have targeted to achieve. Many times I talk, well, actually, I'll talk about an athlete that's a 5-time gold medal winner in track and field, Michael Johnson, and he talks about, look at, I can sit here all day long and say, I want to run a 40-second 400, but that may not be within my scheme of things, my physicality, my ability. So I better go out and practice and see what my ability can deliver and emphasize where my arms are, how my feet strike the ground, how much weights I lift, and is it plyometrics versus heavyweight? Get a process that will drive me towards being the fastest I can be, and then determine what the end result is. If it breaks the tape before everybody else and earns me the medal, because if you don't, you could set up a lot of disappointment for yourself, like you were saying.
That's great. What he did was he set a process goal instead of an outcome goal. He set a goal to focus on the process and the elements of the journey as opposed to the outcome. Now, if he focuses on that goal and does everything right, he's going to win the race. But notice, his goal wasn't, I will win the race.
Yes.
His goal was, I'm going to be the fastest I can be.
Yeah, and talk to me a little bit about then, as your book frames out the concepts of smart versus great and all the other examples that you state in the book about motivation and sharing and what have you. I'd like to know how you look at the word win. Where are the wins that fit the great goal framework and constructs versus where perhaps the SMART goal process had us looking more at the ribbon, the trophy, that break the tape.
Yeah. So there are still wins in the great goal process. But the ideal win isn't a win comparing yourself to others. It's a win comparing yourself to yourself. So it is an improvement win. It's still crossing the finish line, but it's crossing the finish line with your fastest time. It's not necessarily crossing the finish line to beat everyone else. Because you can control if you beat everyone else. All you can control is if you give your best and make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And it reminds me of something I tell my clients about, which is swagger. I said, you've got to have your own definition of your swagger. And I'm not saying that you be selfish about it. I'm saying to you be self-aware so that you can move forward with the goals that you've set. Because too often, I'm sure you've experienced it as well, that people set goals, maybe even have read your book or others about the process of setting great goals, and then just sit or get disenchanted because they didn't get all of the list completed, because they didn't have an inside out framework of looking at themselves and saying, I'm pretty darn good at what I do. I've got this, this swagger, this positivity that surrounds me every moment, from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed every day. And I will take what I get. And I want to ask you about where then does failure, the win is understandable, but now where does failure fit into the great goal process?
So for me, failure is a lesson. We tend to avoid failure in this world because when we fail, we view ourselves as failures. In actuality, a failure is the greatest learning lesson you can ever have. Think about this. If you're successful immediately at something, what do you learn?
How many trophies I get?
Right. And hopefully, if you repeat the process, you'll be successful again. But if that doesn't happen, you're in trouble. But a failure helps you reevaluate, re-strategize, rededicate in terms of energy and efficiency. So you learn so much more from a failure than a success. And that's a hard thing to get around. But when I work with clients, they laugh at me. And I say, look, let's fail big, let's fail fast, and let's learn as much as we can from it. So that we can win more quickly. Because if you think about successful people in the world, very rarely are they successful at their first endeavor. If you look at an entrepreneur, usually they have 3 to 20 failures before they hit it big. If you look at an athlete, they usually lose quite a bit before they start winning. But they stick to it and they use that learning from the process of failing to make themselves better.
Well, and that was where you point out in the book, Carrie, about you have no limits. You're constantly striving to redefine, reassess from failures. That because you say in here, being great means you recognize that even failure can be a success if you learn and grow from it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take one little pause, man. I'm to remind everybody who we're talking with here, because I want to talk to you a long time, but we have not all that much time to have you on the show today. We're with Carrie Williams, author and a leadership coach. Her book is Eyes on the Prize, a kick-ass guide to setting and achieving great goals. I love that, kick-ass. Yeah, I love that. I have to also give a shout out to Peg Booth and the Booth media people who brought me this wonderful person, Carrie Williams, to us today on KUHSdenver.com. You, as always, on Fridays at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, are listening to 360 Mindset Performance Talk. I'm your host, Lowell Whiteman, talking with Carrie Williams. And Carrie, this is the point we're going to move into the last segment. You just started the segment on mental conditioning, so setting that mindset. So books, people out there, the book is a mental conditioning tool to get you into a realization of where your mindset needs to get changed and how you can implement your skills to help you do that. So mental conditioning, use a book like Eyes on the Prize to do that. And then we're going to go, Carrie, right into the last segment, which is performance results. And so we're going to talk a little bit about, so when people get great goals set up and they're moving forward with a swagger and a positive attitude towards accepting both success and failure in a balanced way, so they can realize the environment that creates a chance for their great goals to be realized. What are some of the things you would expect people to come away with as far as outcomes of practicing a great goal process?
So, in consistently practice the great goal process, the great thing about it is sustainable and repeatable.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, we set a goal, we just throw all our resources and energy at it and hope it works. a little more than hope, right? So having a sustainable process that is achievable is really, really important. And we want, ideally, people to be happy, right? That's the number one goal in the world. I just want to be happy. And when people talk to me about happiness, I believe that happiness is a byproduct of purpose. Knowing your path and what you're meant to do in this world and add to this world results in fulfillment and happiness. Would you agree?
Oh gosh, Carrie, you are stating some of the mantras I say to my clients in the show all the time, which is purposeful intent. Take action with purposeful intent, because if you don't have a focus that is representative of who you are and what your best skills are. In fact, you talk about it in, I'll be kind of a geek about this, chapter 3, discovering your dream. And your first line is, phew, you made it to chapter 3. I have to say, Carrie, if somebody doesn't get to page 19, where chapter 3 is, they need some help. not just in setting goals, but reading. Reading is fundamental. and then, well, maybe they got held up in the exercises in chapter 2.
Right. There are a few exercises in chapter 2. So if they've actually accomplished them before they get to chapter 3, I just want to give them that positive reinforcement and that congratulations on making that commitment to themselves into the process.
See it?
Because you and I both know reaching a goal is really about setting intention and then taking daily action.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is that simple. But it's so much more difficult to put into action.
Oh, yeah.
And make it happen.
Well, you know what's interesting to me, and I started the show off today with talking a little bit about Las Vegas and the hurricanes and all the stuff that's going around in our world, in particular hitting the United States. And it seems that in the middle of our energies, where the energy is like, hey, it's every day, kind of flowing along, things are just great, wonderful, mediocre, let's say, we're sustaining. But all of a sudden, something really traumatic happens, or there's a huge challenge, like what happened in Vegas. All of a sudden, discovering and realizing your dreams seems to happen in a heartbeat. It just, all of a sudden, you are something you never thought yourself to be. But you kind of thought, yeah, I'm pretty focused on being a high intensity person. I can do that. But it's not until you get put into a situation that you really get challenged as to realizing failure or success, and actually answering the question, why am I here, and what am I going to be doing while I'm here? So I don't want to go to that place again too much more, but that's the example I start off the show with. So if you take that on for me a little bit and talk to the audience about when you set the great goals, regardless of the situation you find yourself in, if you practice, you can adjust and adapt to almost anything if you've got a plan.
Yeah. So here's what I know. We are really good at what we practice consistently. So if you consistently practice putting your self-care and your goals aside every time there's a hiccup or a challenge, that's what you're good at. So it's going to take some practice to shift it, to become the person who, in spite of challenges and in spite of obstacles, keeps their goal a priority in their life. And it will take practice, and the more you practice, the easier it will get. But athletes know this. The more they practice, the better they are on game day, or the better they are at the race. We wouldn't expect a professional athlete to just show up the race and not practice for the 3 months before, would we?
Well, there are some guys that think they're really, really talented, and because of that perception, the swagger is well beyond their realities. But yes, in general terms, for most people, they're not going to excel and not going to continue to perform at the highest level without practice. You're absolutely right.
Yet it's interesting that we as average people expect ourselves to excel the first time we try something. And a lot of times if we don't, we will try again.
Well, and you know what? I like, it bridges me to, again, I hate to, not hate, I like it. I love the book, okay? So in chapter 4, you talk about controlled versus autonomous goals, and I think that's kind of where we're bouncing around here, is that, it's the you have to do it or I should do it kind of thing. And I think people, if they're genuine, as you point out in chapter 4, it's not a question of answering those two or being put in those two positions. It's genuine. These are mine. I own them, and I'm practicing legitimately what I want to do.
But let's be honest, sometimes it's really hard to own a goal. Like if your doctor tells you to lose weight and you're just not motivated, it's hard. There's a reason that 85% of people do not follow their doctor's orders.
Yeah.
Taking a daily medicine, right? So how can you shift the goal? And I have a perfect example if we have time for this. I had a client who was a salesperson, and his boss said, I want you to sell $100,000 a month. That's your quota. Now, my client really didn't care about quota and really wasn't motivated by that and was kind of frustrated in all honesty. Now, luckily for him, he had a lot of data. So I said, well, look, in order to make $100,000 a year, how many clients do you have to talk to? Or how many clients do you have to sell to? And he said, I have to sell to 10. I said, okay, how many clients do you have to talk to sell to 10? I have to talk to 10 to sell one. So we figured out that if we talk to 100 clients, we can make that $100,000. And I said, great, well, what are your core values? What is important to you? Because clearly the quota isn't and the money isn't. What do you care about? And he said, I care about reaching out to my clients, supporting them, and closing them. And I said, okay. So we know that if you reach out and help and support 100 clients, you'll hit $100,000. And he said, yeah. I said, so that's the goal. The goal has nothing to do with the money and with the sales and with the quota. The goal has to do with your core value of reaching out and helping. The goal is to hit 100 people this month. That first month, he was so excited about the goal. He reached out to 175 people. And he sold $160,000. And for the next 15 months, he was the top seller of the company until he was moved away by a hen husband.
Isn't that the case? Yeah. Well, what you're talking about. Yeah, and you talk about it in terms of also shifting their motivation. You talk about their core values, so they made it their own based on them, not based on a supervisor saying you have to fit yourself into quotas. And that's where the supervisor, if it hadn't been for you, would have lost that person earlier than when the recruiter took them because it didn't fit. And that's, for me, both whether it's a administrative body at a professional team or it's the human resource department in a corporation, the more we get to know who our employees are, we're going to have a greater chance of not just retaining them, but embedding them into our companies with help of great books like this that helps build the skill set and remind people about their swagger, remind people about their mental condition that they need to reinforce for themselves. And I think many times we don't evaluate companies and the people we work with a mirror that reflects who you are. Like I can't work around people that aren't going to have a desire to be conversational, that want to get engaged in conversation. But at the same time, I want to be left alone sometimes. But too often, we don't dig deep enough to find out about people so that we can help them be the best they can be. And that's where you talk about mapping your path and planning your journey in Chapter 9. I really like the topics you hit on, Carrie, and how you brought them together in your book. So as we get ready to close down, give me some thoughts about what specifically you want people to gain and take away from the book, and also a little bit about where you're going to be and how they can get in touch with you.
Sure. So if your listeners take nothing else away from this conversation, I want to tie it back to the first statement that I made. I hope that they walk away from listening to this realizing that they deserve to feel fulfilled in what they're passionate, because everybody does. You don't have to earn that. You deserve it. And two, everybody has the potential to make their dreams a reality. It might require effort, it might require sacrifice, but everybody has that potential. And once you believe those two things, really the sky is the limit. So I hope that they can take that away. Maybe they'll be inspired to read the book, which they can get on Amazon.com, or if you go to your local bookstore, they will order it for you. If you want a signed copy with, I don't know if you remember, but there is a pledge that I asked everyone to sign when they read this book. Mm-hmm. If you order it from my website, I send out name, and you get a signed copy of the book as well. And you can get that at eyesontheprizebook.com if you want a little more personal. Whatever you do, think about the what steps you can take on your journey today, because that's what it's all about, baby steps.
Well, and Carrie, I thank you so much for the time you spent with me today. I'd love to spend more time with you, but I think we're going to call you up again sometime in the near future and bring you back.
I would absolutely love that.
Awesome. As we go out, I'm going to start my favorite song, and it's a private little ditty that some kids gave me years ago about breathing, and remind everybody that this is Carrie Williams we're talking about today and talking with her. She is a leadership coach, public speaker. She has her own practice called Rain Shadow Coaching, and her book, awesome book, Eyes on the Prize, right there. It is a kick-ass guide to setting and achieving goals worth setting. I think that says it all. Read the book. It's a short book, but a long read, because you've got activities, you've got thoughts to provoke you to think deeper into yourself. Carrie, thank you once again. I'll be in touch, and have a great weekend to everybody out there. Have a safe day. This is Lowell Whiteman on KUHSdenver.com, and you're listening to 360 Mindset Performance Talk. I really appreciate the people here at KUHS Denver. And thanks again to Booth Media and bringing Carrie Williams to us. Have a great day, Carrie.
You too. Thank you so much for having me.
Another broken dream. Another teardrop crashes down.
International people, awesome day. Thanks for being with me. Make sure you breathe.